you had to get the right people around you. Karen's father, Dougie, put me on my first account over there, who consequently sold his business to a chap called David Carr. And David is a high roller in Sydney, and if you're going there, you highly recommend it. And pretty sharp operator, because they do the GST a bit different, and they got the, as I was discussing with the Harvey earlier in Rowan, that they got tax file numbers, TFNs and BAS, business activity statements, and all the stuff that's, if you come straight out of Kiwi business, it's all
Different.
what's this?
Because initially everything was done from New Zealand. I can remember Karen having to do a lot of the work. That's Hugh's wife, and she did a lot of the admin work initially when you were in Australia, didn't she? Until you actually managed to grow it enough to get staff over there.
You can set up Australian, also it was hard enough getting an Australian bank account. You know, you had no electricity bill or telephone bill or residential address or anything like that.
So we talked a little bit about the, I suppose, the safe health and safety and things. I was just going to ask what processes and internal systems do you believe allowed your business to grow exponentially? Just to give you a bit of an idea, I just pulled out some sales figures, and Hugh's business in Australia in 2007, the turnover was 586,000. By 2010 it was 1.5 million turnover. So there was a reasonable amount of growth just in 3 years there, and it was not long after that that you sold, was it?
We were fortunate we had contracts in Sydney, Melbourne, long-term contracts, Sydney, Melbourne and Adelaide, and you had to have staff there, so that, and you had to pay the staff good money, you know, and I remember in Adelaide there was two of the boys were in one house that they worked out of and lived out of it. I sort of helped with the rent, you know, all that sort of stuff, and the power, you know, I got the boys were there. It wouldn't have been the worst lifestyle in the world, but they got well rewarded.
You ended up taking quite a few people over from New Zealand, didn't you?
Most of them were Kiwis that we employed here.
Yeah.
Mostly.
Yeah.
No, but having the right staff was important, and people that you could rely on.
So if you look back, at what stage did you realise that you thought that you were building up an asset that might be saleable?
Well, it never, I didn't think about selling, the business wasn't for sale. And my son and I, we were looking at getting another tool in, a thing called a smart ball that goes in trunk mains, large diameter pipes. And that was a company called Pure Technologies in Canada had that tool, and they were going to different parts of the world. They franchised it out or leased it out or licensed it. And we were looking at getting that. We were trying hard to get that. And we did a couple of trials in Melbourne with it, through Melbourne Water. And we'd hum and ahhing, and then Pure Technologies sort of knocked on the door and they said they wouldn't mind buying the business. And that's where that came from.
So what do you think was really the major reason that they thought that your business was a good buy, and you know that you managed to get a good price for it?
Well, I think Pure Technologies had tried to go around the world. They wanted to spread their wings around the world, and they were doing that all over the place. And they saw an opportunity in Australia, in the Australia/South Pacific. They saw an opportunity there, and probably thought it was better to acquire somebody that had a revenue stream, because we had a revenue stream. We had contracts in place, and instead of putting somebody out there and trying to start up a business, because it's a nightmare dealing with these water suppliers, trying to get, if you knock on their door, we were knocking on one company's door and it's taken 3.5 years to get to work. We were knocking on the door before we sold, it took 3.5 years before the company got to work. It's hard yak, it doesn't happen overnight often. And the work we were doing in in Sydney that work in the street, listening on the hydrants and on the water meters. The pricing getting cut, there were some new people coming into the market, and Pure Technologies were looking to go away from that, and they have done. Pure have headed down another track of pipeline assessment, and I've just been reading a few things in the last couple of days that it's a major issue worldwide with infrastructure, and like to put a water main down the East Tamariki Road down here, 300 or 400 diameter water main, cost you $1 million a kilometre. And they could send the smart ball down there, and the smart ball could report that they only need to do a couple hundred metres, so people are saving money. Water suppliers are saving money because they don't have to replace all of the infrastructure. With this equipment that Pure have got, they've got a whole suite of tools that do concrete pipes and metallic pipes, as well as finding leaks. They do pipeline assessment, condition assessment, the wear and tear on the pipes.
So do you have any regrets about the sale? What was the compelling reason that made you decide it was time to sell, even though in general terms you were quite young?
Well, I went having a yarn to David Carr, the Australian accountant, about this when this offer came, because we had this turnover and you're wondering about what the company's worth, and I think there might be a rule of thumb if you're selling a dairy or a news agent, you can multiply the profit by 5 or 3 or whatever the number is. But here we were selling a company that did water main leak detection, so there was no rule, no recipe. So we hummed and hard, and we came up with a number, and I rang my man at Pure Technologies that I was dealing with, and I said, Jack, this is what I think, because we don't want to waste any time, because it's going to be a marathon. It's a marathon task, selling to a listed company with getting audited and all that sort of stuff. So we came up with a number, and that was it.
And how important do you think that it was to have some really good records of performance financially? I mean, we worked quite closely with the Australian accountants for Hugh, and made sure that he was effective tax-wise, because there can be some real issues when you're dealing across borders with tax. So we made sure that things were really efficient for the company in Australia, and like I say, we work closely with the Australian accountants because we can't lodge Australian tax returns. But Hugh, what's your impression of how important it was to have really good records available?
Well, we did a tax every year, like you do, and that was good because Pure had KPMG came in and they tipped you upside down, and for weeks, it seemed like weeks on end, looking at just going through with a fine-tooth comb and making sure everything was in order. So, well, if you're in business, you've got to have your tax and your records right, don't you? People all know that. They're the last people you need on your back is the tax department.
So do you have any particular insights or advice for others in business to ensure that they can sell their businesses for a reasonable price? Do you have any particular tips?
I've written down here that I can't offer much here, but I've written down work hard, keep expenses down, everything we all probably do now ourselves. Get good staff and pay them well, because you can't do it all on your own as much as we think we can. We're bulletproof, but just you've got to trust somebody else along the line.
And one of the things that I mentioned today was about having something to go to and making sure that, the ability to let go from a business, that can be difficult if you haven't got something else to do or something else to take your time. Did you, how have you found that process?
Well, I kept the plumbing business in New Zealand, and I'm just a sole operator, and I specialise in another field. and that keeps me a little bit busy. But there are certainly times that you're sitting at home and you're just looking at the mirror or wondering what's going to happen next. But then the next week I'll be flat out, so that because everybody else is working too. You know, all your mates of everybody's working, so you can't go fishing or play golf or go to the footy. You can't go to the pub all day. Too many days, you know, or businessman's lunch, as my mate likes to call them. But I'm pleased that I got my plumber business going, and I've got a job tomorrow. I've been trying to get organised a bit today to go to it tomorrow. Keep me occupied. A bit to do next week, so down at Cook's Beach, no less.
Taking the boat. So how do you feel now, 3 to 4 years after the sale, and how has this changed yours and your family's lives?
Well, in our case, the Pure Technologies had an earn-out clause, and they wanted someone to hang around for 3 years, and that's what my son had done. He was, in the 3 years, it's 4 years now, but I've been able to spoil myself a little bit, and the other thing is end up with a little bit of money, and you've got to work out what to do with it. And believe it or not, it's not always easy, because there's never sure the job advice, and you just got to think hard about it. I've written down here, sorry I didn't buy a couple of houses in Auckland 4 years ago, but I've gone through a broker, a share broker who's helped with that, and all the money didn't go in one hit. They drifted in over sort of 18 months, which was good. I went to see my old apprentice and talked to him about buying a commercial block, and he said to me, you get bugger all for 2 or 3 million, he reckoned. He's down at Colliers. He said you can bugger all for 2 or 3 million. He said put it in this company here, they give you a dividend, and I've had dividends off it and a bit of growth.
So that was a company that invested in commercial buildings,
Yes.
and you just own a small share of it?
Yeah. And